All right, here we are. We're ready to go. And we are back in front of the legendary Miles Edgeworth. What is his deal? Why is he here? Let's talk to him and find out. Hey, the first topic is Miles Edgeworth. So, what are you doing here, Edgeworth? The captor chose me as the prosecutor for the UR1 case. Wow, she's good. She went all the way up to the top. I gathered all the information I could in the short time that I had. I'll give you a rundown. You're always so well-prepared, Prosecutor Edgeworth. Thanks. I appreciate this. I could really use the help. The UR1 incident. I'll start with a brief overview. The victim was the psychologist Dr. Metis Sykes. Yeah, Athena's mother. 7 years ago, on the 7th of October, her body was found here in this very room. I have 2 crime photos and the police notes on them for you to see. Oh, what a terrible way to die. So hang on a second. Can we... Okay. I noticed the katana, I noticed the coat, but we'll come back with that later. Oh, what's that in the corner? What's that in the corner? That sure looks like that capsule. Again, I maintain there's something about that capsule. This other photo shows the other side of the room, I see. 7-year-old photos added to the court record. 2 photos of the body and crime scene. They were taken by the first person to discover the body. I also have the autopsy report for you. Metis's autopsy report. Oh no, Edgeworth gave us an autopsy report. Even though he's had, you know, about a decade worth of character development, I don't trust that. The murder weapon was the victim's own katana found at the scene. Yes, Detective Fulbright mentioned she was into Japanese culture, as opposed to Californian culture. The body was found by a Space Center staff member and 2 police officers. The police were called in because of the sabotage threat on the Hat 1 launch. Yes, Director Cosmos mentioned this, too. A few hours after the body was discovered, a suspect was arrested. The suspect was Simon Blackwell, a young prosecutor. Simon Blackwell. I hear his trial was over in a flash. Yes, a guilty verdict was declared in only 1 session. Not only did he plead guilty, but there was decisive evidence against him, too. The security camera video. And a photo of the moment of the crime, as I recall. But did Prosecutor Blackwell have a motive? To this day, his motive is still unknown. He insisted he did it, but he would never say why. So that means he must still be hiding something. Right, and there's another aspect of the case that was never revealed to the public. Yeah, I know. The part about the spy, right? Right! How on earth do you know about that? Director Cosmos told me, after a bit of pressure. He told me espionage and sabotage were behind the Hat 1 miracle. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. I've always been good at keeping secrets. Well, I might as well tell you now. They really do suspect Blackwell of being a spy. They think he sabotaged the rocket and killed Dr. Sykes to steal the moon rock. But, if you can prove that the Hat 2 bombing is the work of the same spy, we can stay the execution. It's a possibility. That's why I intend to help you any way I can. Thanks, Edgeworth. Now all I have to do is comb this room for evidence. Let's do it together. We got Edgeworth on our side, doing an investigation with him. This is great. But first, check out the badge. It must be nice to finally have your attorney's badge back. Yeah, it's been 8 years. I'm sorry for all I put you through. No, I'm sorry I wasn't able to help you. Nah, I was the one that made the decision. But now you can stand in court once again. And you can mow them down just like you used to. Oh, way to put pressure on a guy. And since when did I get such a brutal reputation? Anything else you want to talk about with me? Menace's autopsy report. Okay, let's check this out. Estimated time of death between 1 and 3 p.m. on October 7th. Cause of death, instant death due to a stab wound to the heart. Okay. And the 7-year-old photos. 2 photos of the body and crime scene. They were taken by the first person to discover the body. All right, so we got, she's laying on the robotics table thingy. There is a piece of paper on the ground there. Oop. And we have the katana, and we have a coat. Yeah, it's interesting. Let's keep that in mind for future investigations. The victim's body was found on the operating table. A katana, the victim's staff jacket, and a cart were found nearby. So that is her jacket. I presume it is the jacket that is in the museum right now. And then we have this, which is the capsule, a mask, Japanese stuff, and there is the stand where the katana would go, I assume. And then we also have a toolbox, and that is the charging station for the robots, I guess? Either that or they have California, Japanifornia Teslas. The moon rock was stolen. The Hope capsule can be seen on the workbench. There were rolling cases for moving equipment, a robot charging station, and a toolkit on the floor. There is a hanging scroll and Japanese theater mask on the wall. Got it. And that's the photo of the crime. Yeah. And there's a robot arm that's covered in wording? That's weird. 7-year-old photo. The phony Fanty Bomb. What do you have to say about that? Right. Please stop presenting random evidence just to see how that person will react. Oh no! You've broken the fourth wall. But that's the thing. I need to see how people will react in order to question them. And what if it's evidence that person isn't privy to? That doesn't happen much. You never change. And I'm afraid I'll never understand your assortment of oddball clients either. Alright. The lighter. Well, anyway, let's start looking around the room. Okay, so this is apparently where the murder happened. Let's look. It looks like an operating table. It's in the photo, too. Yes, it was here then as well, with the victim's body lying on it. There's a button here. Oh, I know. I'll try pushing it. Pearls! Don't touch... Oopsie. Hey, it's moving! It appears to be a robot assembly device. Disassemble anything in a flash. Push the dismantle button. That sounds pretty neat. Can I push it, Mr. Nick? Please don't push any more buttons, Pearls. Okay. Alright, it is now actively working on... Okay, it's gone. So it assembled a robot. But there's a disassembly, too. It's a little bit weird. And there's an emergency ladder. Let's look at that. An emergency ladder. This must be the one they used during the evacuation. The explosion disabled the elevators. So I lowered my emergency ladder like the detective leading the evacuation told me to. As Miss Blackquill was climbing down the side of the building, she saw the culprit inside. I wonder which would have been scarier. That or looking down. Emergency ladder added to the court record. Right. She climbed outside all the way down from the 4th floor. That would be a little bit nerve-wracking. Coffee. What is this, Tony Stark's office? Alright, what do we got here? What kind of ladder is it, though? I don't think it's a step ladder. I don't think so. We'll have to see. Oh, look, it's a little robot. I wonder what it does. Cleaning, maybe? A cleaning robot must follow a human's orders as long as it causes no human harm. Yikes, it talks! A cleaning robot must keep desks clean without violating the preceding clause. However, Miss Aura says she prefers a moderate level of clutter on the desk. Oh, what is the purpose of my existence? I guess slack off and cut some corners aren't in his vocabulary bank. Let's see. Aura's desk is a mess, though that doesn't surprise me. Oh, I just want to dive in and straighten it out. Wait, before you do... Metis. Huh? She just glanced over at her desk. It's Metis Sykes. Plonko, can I talk to you? I really hope he's back to normal. You wish to speak to me, Mr. Wright? If you're going to hit me, please avoid the face area. Hey, don't put me in the same class as that woman. What was Aura like 7 years ago at the time of the incident? When Mother died, Miss Aura was confused. Huh? So he calls Dr. Sykes Mother, but Aura Blackquill Miss Aura. With the loss, she exhibited a severe catecholamine imbalance. I hope I said that right. Excuse me, but I have no idea what that means. Pardon me? Searching for alternative expression? She would spend the nights crying and then take out her feelings on those around her. After Prosecutor Blackquill was found guilty, she repeatedly demanded a retrial as well. That is correct, but without new evidence, her requests were ignored. And then, little by little, Miss Aura began to change. She started to hate it when I called her Mama Aura. And before long, she started hating the court system and abusing Klonko, huh? That murder destroyed so many lives. Right. Take a look at this paper on Dr. Sykes and Miss Blackquill's research. Ponko and Klonko, they're the robots with hearts that Dr. Sykes created. Ponko series features, okay, can determine the presence of a human with their heartbeat detection system. Recognizes people by scanning their spacesuit or uniform jacket ID tag. Right. Because, if you remember, when Apollo was there, the robot thought he was, Apollo's friend. Because he was wearing his jacket. Can also recognize a person by facial features once the face has been registered. Can infer people's emotions by analyzing their tone of voice and communicate with them. Okay? In addition, they can recognize people by their ID tag or facial features. And they can infer people's emotions by analyzing their tone of voice. That's amazing. Hey, I don't know, Edgeworth. They might even be more human than you. What's that supposed to mean? It kind of sounds like these robots can do what Athena does. Huh. Interesting. Robots with a heart. At Yaxa. Is that everything? I am 90s adventure game rubbing on everything here, and it is not doing anything, so let's go over here. And what do we got here? What's this? A giant robot arm, maybe? It's pretty big for an arm, but you're right. I think these thin parts here are finger bones. They're even about as long as my legs. And there's a spiked ball and giant drill on the floor, too. Is Aura trying to build some kind of weapon of massive destruction? Hello. Maybe she wants to use it to demolish a big building or something. I can picture her gleefully tearing down the street doing just that. I'd better not think about it anymore. Alright. Is this the charging station? What's this? It looks like a giant power plug. It's attached to what looks like an electric vehicle charging station. That's a charging station for us robots. We come here periodically and charge ourselves up. Wow, machines that maintain themselves. That's pretty cool. If our batteries run out and we lose consciousness, we never know what Miss Aura will do to us while we're down, you see. Nothing motivates quite like fear, huh? Fear of this battle robot. No, what do we got here? This is one heck of a robot. There's something written on it. Is this supposed to be a poem? I cut down anyone who displeases me. I make the rules. I am the law. I wield the ultimate gavel of judgment. I am Judge Tron, JTO2. I don't believe we need to bother with that, Pearl. It's not even completed yet. He's right, Pearls. There's no sign of it in the photo from 7 years ago, either. They were building the Hope space probe here at the time. The murder occurred after the space probe had been removed from the room. So it was long gone by the time someone took this picture, huh? But you can see the probe in this newspaper photo. Yes, and you can see the stolen moon rock from there, too. That strange black and yellow thing on the left side of the picture? Note that the same rock is absent from the crime scene photo. Yeah. Not only that, but before the launch, a very valuable piece of moon rock was stolen. I hear there's lots of research into moon rocks and stardust from asteroids these days. They say the results could potentially have a huge impact on all of civilization. It's like we're in a new space race with every other country out there. Impact somebody's game of civilization? Oh no. So the person who stole it, you think it was our spy? I'm sure of it. Dr. Sykes was probably killed because she was a roadblock in their plan. Unfortunately, the government thinks Prosecutor Blackquill is the culprit. So, I am fairly certain that this giant spiked ball is a reference to Mobile Suit Gundam, because that is one of the weapons that the Gundam uses. And I think it's actually officially called the Judgment Hammer in the show. So that would make sense if this is like a judge robot and that's his hammer. Hey, look at this row of rolling cases. I bet the wheels make it easier for people to move heavy research materials around. I bet they'd be fun to ride around in. We could even probably both fit into the biggest one. I know, we could have Prosecutor Edgeworth push us. I don't trust him not to push us down a flight of stairs. He might get annoyed enough to do that. Judge Tron. It's about as cluttered as my office, but I think it's a workbench. Mr. Nick, I think this must be a kitchen. Look at this photo. See the cute little food processor? That isn't a food processor, Pearls. That's the Hope capsule. Oh, Edgeworth calls her Pearls too? When has he started doing that? It was scheduled to be loaded onto the Hope space probe that fateful day. The 3 people who came to collect the capsule discovered the body. The first on the scene, huh? A staff member and 2 police officers, was it? And they were here to collect the capsule. Which reminds me... So they plan to use this bag to carry the capsule, is that right? Yeah, more or less. Say, why don't we stop talking about the case and have a nice cup of tea instead? Hollow and Aura Blackburn. I wonder what they're talking about. Yes, I kind of remember that flashback. Edgeworth, did those 3 people have a bag with them for transporting the capsule? Oh, you mean this? It's a custom-made, shock-resistant bag. But how did you know? Oh, I just overheard Apollo making an inquiry about it, that's all. So he's looking into the case from 7 years ago on his own, is he? Hope capsule updated in the court record, okay. It was at the crime scene 7 years ago. It was launched into space and only returned to Earth a few days ago. So, did they collect another asteroid piece and it got stolen too? Or was there something else in there? I don't know. Well, I guess that's about it for this room. So what do you think, right? Any ideas? There are still a lot of gaps in the evidence, but I'll pull it off somehow. After all, you asked me to prove Blackquill's innocence, right, Edgeworth? What? He did? Yup. He called it a special request. He reached out to me while I was still disbarred. Wait, really? Hang on a second. Oh! Was that who he was on the phone with at the start of the game? I remember that cutscene. I bet it was. Edgeworth's request. So that was what sparked you to get your attorney's badge back? Yep, the Blackwell case. Right. I have a special request. I want you to clear one of my subordinates of suspicion. Hey, I'm not even a lawyer anymore, remember? Haven't been one for a long time. That 8-year misunderstanding has been cleared up, and you must be eager to return. I'm sure you're familiar with the other case that ushered in the dark age of the law. Huh? Very soon, a convict will stand as a prosecutor in court. I want you to keep an eye on him. Oh, just when I'm beginning to actually like the job I have now. Right. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. Because of the espionage aspect, I wasn't free to give you all the details. Hey, no need to apologize. It's like I said on the phone the other day. I know that the type of criminals you're after now aren't small fries anymore. Looks like your target finally decided to make a move. Yeah, it's for this very reason I returned. It was the cutscene at the start of the game. Got it. Time to bring it to an end. I'm going to end the dark age of the law. That's what this is all about. Just like I did the last time we had a really bad judicial system. The dark age of the law. Let's talk about that. The dark age of the law. Sure comes up a lot these days on TV and in the papers. And I hear there are more false charges and fabrication of evidence than ever. When I became chief prosecutor, the court system had already lost the people's trust. It all began 8 years ago. The lawyer was caught fabricating evidence. And a year after that, the prosecutor was found guilty of murder. Wait, do you mean... That's right. He's talking about my case. And Prosecutor Blackwell's. Oh my gosh. Are they actually going to acknowledge the events of a previous game again? That's nice. It was a downward spiral after that. An absolute nightmare. After those two cases, the mass media launched an all-out attack on the courts. Public opinion was tainted, and before long, the legal world itself was sucked into it. It's such a shame. Once suspicion forms, it's very hard to shake. Lawyers and prosecutors were supposed to trust each other, pursue the truth together. It's so sad when people begin to cast doubt. They start lying to themselves and each other. Yes, and do absolutely anything to win. We're in an age now where winning is valued far more than the truth. I'm sure it's caused our new chief prosecutor to lose many a night's rest. Is it just me, or did his brow get even more furrowed than the last time I saw him? The hostage-taker's disdain for the courts is a perfect example of the times. It sure is. Do you have any idea who the hostage-taker might be? Well, somebody who mistrusts the court system and who can manipulate robots. It can really only be Aura Blackwell. Who else but her would want a retrial of that case from 7 years ago so badly? Simon, Blackwell's older sister, and the owner of this room. I agree with your conclusion. Perhaps she intended to force Miss Sykes to confess. Actually, I think she had a much more horrific plan in mind for Athena. The important thing is for you to solve UR1 and prove Blackwell's innocence. And then maybe she'll release the hostages. I'm counting on you, right, to set that prosecutor and those hostages free. And I'll be counting on you in court to help me too. Of course, I'll do everything I can to help uncover the truth. And this isn't an official trial. I'm more at liberty to be a little unorthodox. Mr. Wright, are you finished with your investigation? Yeah, but I'd like you to tell the hostage-taker something for me. I have to go to the detention center. I can't start the trial until I've talked to Athena. She's already given her consent, I'll accompany you to the detention center. So I'm still being watched, huh? I'll see you in court, Edgeworth. Even if it will be an undocumented trial, it'll be good to face you in court again. December 20th, detention center, visitors room. You know, this case kind of reminds me of the anime. So the anime is mostly an adaptation of the original trilogy, but they do have like a filler 3-episode thing where I think it's called the Turnabout Express, and Phoenix is on a train and he ends up having to do a mock trial to retry this person who thought he was unjustly convicted for something. So very similar concept. I wonder if they got that from here. Because I think this game came out before the anime did, but I can't quite remember. She was right by my side only a few short hours ago, but I feel like I haven't seen her in ages. Oh, Mr. Wright! And Pearly, too! I knew you'd come. After all, the first step is the interview with the defendant. And because you're my friend, and I was worried about you. Thanks, boss. I'm not the only one who's worried either. Really? Who else? I saw Miss Woods today. She was so beside herself, she came to find me. She told me you used to live in the Cosmos Space Center. No wonder you knew so much about the place. Oh, so you know, huh? I'm sorry I didn't tell you. That's all right, but there are some other things I'd like to ask you. Sure, you can ask me anything. I promise I won't keep any more secrets from you. Alright. The day of the crime. Tell me about the day Clay was murdered. I was actually at the Space Center that day. In the Space Museum. Right where the culprit fled to? That's not good. I never could fully deal with what happened 7 years ago. But when I saw the center again during the news coverage of the Hat 2 launch, I thought maybe if I went there, things would be different this time. That must have taken a lot of courage to face your past like that. So I went to the Space Museum the evening before the explosions. This was before the launch pads had been switched. There was a sign that said closed for repairs, and they weren't letting anybody in. Yeah, the director couldn't very well switch the pads if there were people in there. But I snuck in anyway. Did you want to see that Hat 1 group photo? The one with your mother in it? I did, but what I really wanted to see was her jacket. Jacket on display. That was Dr. Sykes's? Yeah. I'm way ahead of you, Phoenix. A newspaper, yeah, and the jacket worn by Dr. Sykes, yes. But I should have known it wouldn't be easy to get over such a traumatic experience. The second I saw that jacket, it all came rushing back to me. Everything around me went hazy and I couldn't see. I tried to get out of there somehow. But I guess I passed out. When I came to, I was in the passage behind the rocket. I was in the shadows where people couldn't really see me. Maybe you got confused and went the wrong way when you were trying to leave? How long do you think you were unconscious, Athena? I was out until about noon of the next day. I didn't even know about the explosions. When I woke up, nobody was around, so I just went out into the boarding lounge too. And mine must have still been fuzzy because my memory is vague after that. I don't remember how I got home. No memory, huh? This is gonna be tough. Which means, what if I'm the one who killed Clay? I think that's enough of that, Athena. Let's talk about something else. So, during the entire incident, she was unconscious in the Space Museum. Of course I believe her. But will anybody else? Let's talk about your mother's work. What kind of research was Dr. Sykes, your mother, doing? Machines that could tell people's emotions by their tone of voice. And my special ability. Someday, when people travel to distant planets, their companions will be robots. So she said they had to be able to understand how their human companions felt. Wow, robots that can understand people! I was just a convenient subject for her research. All she ever did was work, and she never paid any attention to me. Oh, sorry about that. Dredging up all that old stuff. No need to apologize. I guess her home life was complicated. Oh, by the way, Miss Wood said something about you always wearing headphones. She always wore these big, heavy-looking headphones. She said her mother made them for her as part of her research. I had to wear them every time I went out. Oh, I hated them so much, but she wouldn't listen. What were they for? Oh, she gave me some kind of explanation. But I don't remember now. It was too difficult for a little kid to understand. Okay, but let me say this one thing. I don't think your mother only thought of you as some handy subject for her research. But I want to believe that. But just about the only things my mother left me with are Widget and this earring. That earring, huh? That has been a prominent part of her, like, character design. I just thought, it was a part of that, but that earring, interesting. Okay. Oh, it's beautiful! It's made of a piece of real moon rock she had for research. Maybe she did love me in her own way. I'm sure of it. I'm really sure she did. Because that's what I want to believe, too. Moonrock earrings. An earring that Dr. Sykes gave to Athena. The stone was cut from a real moon rock that was being used for research. I'm sure that's not going to come up at all. I'd better ask her a little more about her mother's research. I should show her that paper I found in the robotics lab. Okay. With this one here? Robots with a heart? Oh, the Ponko series. You must have gone to the robotics lab. You seem to really love Ponko and Klonko. Yeah, my mother made them, and I grew up around them, Oh, there's one of those cute little robots in this photo, too. See Ponko's bandages? I put those on her. I just wound them around and around. Pretty bad job, huh? But I really put my all into it. Okay, hang on a second. So, Ponko has the bandages. Let's go back to this picture for a second. That is Ponko's bandages, but why is it bloody? Why is there blood on the bandages? What's going on? Why is there blood? I guess we'll have to find out. But that is something to keep in mind. File it away. File it away. I hardly left the center in those days, so I didn't have any human friends beside Junie. I didn't really understand the difference between robots and people back then. I thought that if a robot broke, bandaging it would help it get better. What a weirdo I was. It looks like there's something written on the bandages. Yeah, I wrote stuff like, "Get well soon, Ponko," in Californian. But in the end, my mom just put her on the operating table and fixed her in a flash. Oh, that must be the thing I made move in the robotics lab. I was so impressed by what my mom did. I even asked her if she would put me on the table and fix me if I ever got hurt. It looked just like magic to me what she could do. A little girl who grew up around robots. She seems to have some good memories of it. Alright, then we also have 7 years ago. On a different subject, did you hear about the person holding up the Space Center? That's an interesting way to put it. Did you hear about the person who is basically demanding your public execution and has taken hostages to ensure that? Yes, a little. And this person has even Taken hostages? I guess I'd better spare her the news about Trucy. Well, after some negotiating, we agreed to do a retrial of the case from 7 years ago. What? You're kidding me! So that means Prosecutor Blackquill might... Yep, I know he's innocent. I just have to prove it. So wait, did you know him back then? Yes, he used to come visit my mom a lot. He studied psychology under her and would sometimes ask for advice on his legal cases. He was very kind and considerate, and straight as an arrow. Unlike now, where he's more twisted than a basket of snakes. Is he, though? I mean, they call him the Twisted Samurai in this game. He's actually been a fairly okay prosecutor. That's why I took the witness stand during his trial 7 years ago. Please, you have to listen to me! He didn't kill her. His heart is screaming that he didn't kill her. I was a fool. How could anybody else know what I was talking about? She heard the voice of his heart. You were only 11 then, right? You were very brave just to give testimony. Pearls is right. You did the very best you could at the time. But nothing I said did any good. I was a shaking and scared little girl, small and ineffectual. Even after I went to live with my relatives in Europe, I stayed closed up in my shell. But you're different now. You're always so bright and cheerful. Thanks. That's because one day I came to realize that I had to fight. I couldn't give up. I exercised hard and I studied hard. I wanted to become the strongest lawyer I could. Well, that's nice. Why you became a lawyer? I wanted to save Simon, but I had no idea how. Then I met Mr. Wright, and thanks to him, I realized that if I became a lawyer, I could prove that Simon was innocent. I also realized that psychology could help me do this. I mean, psychology was my mother's specialty. When I studied it, I felt like she was there with me, supporting me. It doesn't seem like Athena knows that Prosecutor Blackquill is due to be executed tomorrow. I wanted to prove Simon's innocence personally. I wanted to do it so bad, even now. I want to fly out of here and go save him. Come to think of it, she said something like that during the Themis Legal Academy trial. She mentioned there was somebody she wanted to save. She must have been talking about Prosecutor Blackquill. I heard some prison guards say that you had an interview with Simon. How was he? What did he say? Huh? No, I can't tell her. But how can I lie to Athena? You can't. He was doing well. He was happy about the possibility of being proven innocent. He was? I wonder if he smiled like he used to. Back then. If I can't prove Prosecutor Blackquill's innocence in this trial, I don't think Athena will ever forgive me. I just have to free him. Failure is not an option here. Oh. I thought you might be here, Mr. Lawyer. We're in trouble. But we are? What is it? I couldn't find a single open courtroom. They're all in session. Oh no, but this is an emergency. It's very difficult to interrupt a trial once it's underway. Hey, my phone. It's from Trucy. I told you I'd give you 1 hour. I guess it's time to pick one of the hostages. No, wait! We still have a little more time. Besides, all of the courtrooms are being used right now. Make all the excuses you want, but you won't get more time. Your daughter is first. The poor thing. She's a little too young to die, don't you think? No! Don't you dare hurt her. There has to be something I can do. Ugh, the cruelest injustice is about to befall us. No, this can't be happening. Mystic Maya, help us. Wait a minute. Maya? I read somewhere that you were holding a trowel in the middle of an exploding courtroom? That must have been really something. Although weird is par for the course with you. Oh, they're gonna have it in the blown-up courtroom. A courtroom blew up. That's it! There is a courtroom we can use after all. Yes! Okay, time's up. Too bad. Any last words you'd like to say to her? Aura, please don't add to the crimes you've already committed. So you know who I am, do you? It wasn't like I was trying to keep it a secret anyway. We're ready to start the trial. We can hold it in the ruins of courtroom number 4, the one blown up by the bomber. Oh, what a wonderful idea, Mr. Nick. I never would have thought of that. An astonishing trial in an astonishing location. I guess it's only befitting. I'll go get the place ready right away. I didn't exactly pick the place for its astonishing factor. How about it? Are you ready to have your brother's innocence proven? My brother? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I forget to mention, it's not Simon you'll be defending. What? Not Prosecutor Blackwell? I indict Athena Sykes on the charge of murdering her own mother. You'll be defending the little princess there, the one behind the glass. What? See you in that mountain of rubble you've chosen for our courtroom, Mr. Wright. What is she talking about? Athena? Of course. Why didn't it ever occur to me before? If Prosecutor Blackwell is innocent, somebody else had to have been the true culprit. Did I kill my own mother? No. No! Oh. No way. It can't be true. Mr. Nick, what's the matter? I see 5 black Cyclops. Okay. There is only one other character, to my knowledge, who had black Cyclops, and that was Christoph Gavin. So, this is interesting. I've seen these kinds of locks before. Dark, black locks pretending a secret hidden deep inside a person's heart. And there's no way to remove them. To be continued. Okay. Save current progress. Let's do it. On to the next chapter. December 20th, 3:11 p.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby number 5. I did a little research. I looked into those special Cyclops you mentioned, Mr. Nick. You did? Well, that's great. I really appreciate it. A red Cyclops protects a secret person is consciously trying to hide. If the person folds under questioning, the lock breaks and the truth comes out. Yep, that's exactly how I got the truth out of Detective Fulbright and Director Cosmos. But a black Cyclops protects a secret from the deepest place in a person's heart. A secret that a person isn't even consciously aware of. So even they don't know it's there? Athena isn't trying to keep anything from you on purpose. For some reason, part of her heart and her memories are sealed off, even from herself. Okay, so all I have to do is break the Cyclops. According to my research, black Cyclops is like a heavy chain wrapped directly around one's heart. If they are ripped off by force, it could cause permanent damage to a person's soul. In other words, if I'm not careful, I could traumatize Athena for good. Ugh. Pearls, could you stay by Athena's side? She must be suffering under the weight of such a heavy burden. All right, but will you be all right by yourself, Mr. Nick? I'm up against Edgeworth. I have to be able to give this trial all of my focus and strength. And you can't do that if I'm there. I'll just hold you back? No, that's not it. I just meant I can relax and concentrate. If I knew you were with Athena. You're the only one who can do it, Pearls. All right. I'll do it then. Good luck, Mr. Nick. Good. Now that my mind's at ease, I'd better get ready. I'll just tidy up the evidence and take out what I don't need. It's time to end this nightmare that started 7 years ago. Where's Apollo right now, by the way? December 20th. District Court. Courtroom number 4. I know this is very sudden. Like, this has happened in, like, less than a day, but still. Where is Apollo? Defense, prosecution, and judge. There's even people in the gallery. The roof's been completely blown off, and the walls have collapsed. But today, this ruin is my battleground. Oh. Day 1. Court is now in session. All rise. Court, some facsimile thereof, is now in session for the trial of Athena Sykes. Not a facsimile, old man. This is a proper official trial. Take this more seriously, or you'll start hearing the bones of the hostages snap. Please try not to upset Miss Blackwell. I'm begging you. Court is now in session for the very serious and very proper trial of Athena Sykes. This is no trial. It's nothing more than a ridiculous farce. What did you say? Edgeworth, did you not hear what I just said to His Honor? However, this ridiculous farce has a very important meaning for our legal system. Recall the case of the UR1 incident, in which a prosecutor was found guilty of murder. That case ushered in the odious dark age of the law. I see what you're after. If we can find the real truth behind that case today. Precisely. The darkness will be dispelled, and glory shall be restored to the court system. Prosecutor Edgeworth, you sound as if you know something of this truth. I do indeed. A new suspect has emerged in the UR1 case. For 7 years, Simon Blackwell has refused to speak in order to cover for someone else. Brace yourself, Phoenix. Here it comes. I'm sorry, right? But the situation is what it is, and I must do what I must. The prosecution moves to indict Athena Sykes on the count of murder in the first degree.
Regardless the circumstance, I intend to question the defendant with all I have. For that is a part of my creed.
Then you'd better bring it.
If the two of you are ready. Court is now in session for the trial of Athena Sykes.
Your Honor, the defense was born ready.
The prosecution is also ready.
All right. This immense tension between us. Like we're picking up right where we left off. It's my duty to clear Prosecutor Blackwell of false accusations and end this insanity. But I have no intention of losing Miss Sykes either. She's a very promising young lawyer. I know without a doubt that Athena is innocent. But I don't think Prosecutor Blackwell did it either. So, do you have any clue who was responsible for the sabotage?
At the very least, I know it wasn't Simon Blackwell. I don't know enough to identify the true culprit, but it's clear what that person is. To put it simply, a spy.
Yep. The true culprit is a spy. Yeah. And he's sapping your sentry. It's going to be hard to convince anyone of that, and I barely believe it myself. But I don't have a choice if I want to save Athena and Blackquill and expose the spy.
But now then, Chief Prosecutor Edgeworth.
No need for the Chief Prosecutor bit, Your Honor. I am here as a simple prosecutor.
Very well, your opening statement, please, Prosecutor Edgeworth. Although, I've been known of late to give a impressive opening statement myself.
Maybe it's another member of the Gaviners.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that'd be horrible. In all the trials I've ever seen, only the prosecution gives an opening statement.
Of course, you're right. I was just joking. Just having a little fun.
So he wasn't doing them just out of fear? Interesting. Let's start with a brief overview of the UR-1 incident. The incident occurred at the Cosmos Space Center 7 years ago on October 7th. The victim, psychologist Metis Sykes, was killed in the robotics lab on the 4th floor. Athena's mother. Simon Blackquill, a young prosecutor at the time, was found guilty of the crime. There were two deciding factors that led to his guilty verdict. One, Blackquill was the only person in the corridor to the lab at the time of the murder. And two, this photo, which captured the moment of the crime.
Very incriminating evidence indeed.
Is it, though? I mean, he's just standing at the window holding the sword.
It would appear that the only conclusion is that Prosecutor Blackquill did indeed... Are you kidding me? I'm not accepting any conclusion of the kind.
This opening statement is over. Now, hurry up and call the witness.
Excuse me, Miss Blackquill, but we must follow proper procedure for these things, you know.
Or perhaps we should heed her wishes, Your Honor. She is the trial sponsor, after all. Besides, the courtroom is chilly, and sitting for too long can't be good for your back.
Oh, you are very kind to show such concern for the welfare of the elderly.
As skilled as ever at playing the court puppeteer, I see. The prosecution calls its first witness. A witness who decided to bring forth new testimony after 7 long years. New testimony? And just who is this witness anyway? Bobby Fulbright's the name. In justice we trust. What are you doing here? I'm just here to speak for the hostage taker, Miss Aura Blackquill. She says she's too busy with confining and threatening the hostages and all. That doesn't seem to stop her from constantly chiming in through Clonko. I'm nothing more than an observer in this. Do your best. I'm watching you. Believing her brother innocent, Miss Blackquill has been conducting her own investigation. And though her current actions are hardly lawful, I think we can at least hear her theory. I have here Miss Blackquill's notes on the investigation she conducted. And I'll be giving testimony based on these notes. Here I go! Aura Blackquill's theory. Simon isn't the murderer. He was trying to cover for someone. Someone else was at the scene at the time they say Simon committed the murder. I mean, if he really was out to steal that moon rock, then why the rolling case? Because he was using it to hide someone inside, that's why. And the only person small enough to fit inside that case was Athena Sykes. And that's what Miss Blackquill's theory is. It totally goes in the face of the official ruling, huh? About the case she mentions, there were other rolling cases like that one in the lab. But they're not for traveling, they're apparently for moving parts and equipment. I vaguely remember seeing 3 cases, all different sizes. Right, because Pearl said that the biggest one, Nick and her could get in at the same time. At the last trial, they thought that Prosecutor Blackquill used the case to steal the rock. And they had a perfectly good reason to think that, too. You see, there's a security camera in the corridor that leads to the robotics lab. And that camera captured footage of Blackwell leaving the scene with the case. I can see why that footage helped to bring his trial to a quick end. Very convincing, that's for sure. The 7-year-old video updated. Okay. That case, by the way, was later discovered outside on the Space Center grounds. Speaking of after the incident, where was the defendant, Athena Sykes, found? She was found on the 5th floor of the Space Center, in the Sykes family residence. Prosecutor Blackwell most likely brought her there after the incident. In addition, it's unknown where Miss Sykes was at the estimated time of death. Miss Sykes was too confused by the shock of her mother's death to give proper testimony, and there was no witness or evidence to tell us where she might have been. So what you're saying is Miss Sykes didn't have an alibi? That is what the evidence is saying, yes.
I understand the reasoning behind the theory, but I'm far from convinced. The victim is the accused mother. Are you actually claiming an 11-year-old girl?
Of course, the girl had a very strong motive. Dr. Sykes was a psychologist who wrote many papers about speech and emotions. You're aware of Athena Sykes' special ability, aren't you, Your Honor?
Are you referring to that therapy thing? Oh, yes. She's done it quite a few times in court.
The ability to read emotions from speech, and the subject of her mother's research.
Well, as long as it benefits society, I don't see any particular problem researching it.
I don't like where this is heading. Not one bit. Dr. Sykes was so intent on her research, she forced her daughter to undergo experiments.
Prosecutor Edgeworth? Are you seriously suggesting?
I've done my best to be delicate, but even you can't deny it to be true, Mr. Wright. No longer able to withstand the anguish of the experiments, Miss Sykes felt her only choice was to kill her own mother. Ah!
Order! Order in the court! What a tragic story! I hardly want to believe it myself. But we must proceed. Mr. Wright, if you could. Detective Fulbright, please refer to the notes.
Okay, we're gonna press him on someone else's notes. Okay. Simon isn't the murderer. He was trying to cover for someone. Okay. So Prosecutor Blackwell willingly accepted a death sentence to protect someone else? Yes, that is precisely what Miss Blackwell appears to believe. And that is why I believe as well. Prosecutor Blackwell is no murderer, Mr. Wright. But Athena Sykes certainly didn't kill anyone either, Mr. Edgeworth. So it appears neither of us can afford to go easy on the other. Fine. I expected no less.
Oh, I remember this tense atmosphere! It's so invigorating!
I'm only reading notes here, but yeah, I feel extra invigorated too. So let's keep going. Someone else was at the scene at the time they say Simon committed the murder, okay? But that's just speculation. No, Miss Blackwell has proper grounds for her claims. Then why didn't you say so in the first place? You're the one who screamed, "Hold it!" and cut me off. Fine. So maybe I jumped the gun by a teeny-weeny bit. Now I know what they mean when they say close enough to argue. Moving on. I mean, if he really was out to steal that moon rock, then why the rolling? Okay. This rolling case, I suppose you mean the one that existed in the photo with Prosecutor Blackwell in it, but was absent when the crime scene photos were taken? Yes, that's the one, and Miss Blackwell has drawn a conclusion from these two photos. She has? And what is that conclusion? You're the one with her notes. Oh, right, of course. Reading them now. So, Why the rolling case? Because he was using it to hide someone inside, okay? And how do you propose he hit a person inside one of those cases? Have you forgotten that we saw just such a thing only the other day? At your own daughter's magic show. She fit a grown person into a small box. Oh yeah! Way to ruin the memory of a good day. I like that it's now canon that Edgeworth just goes to Tercy's magic shows.
A magic show? I wish you would have thought to invite me.
Actually, I would have liked to go too. But my apologies. I'll invite you both next time. I promise. So, wait a minute. What were we talking about again? Prosecutor Blackwell was using the case to hide someone. And the only person small enough to fit inside that case was Athena Sykes. But that's nothing more than conjecture, and it's hardly the only possibility. In that case, what do you think Prosecutor Blackquill had in that case? I think it was the moon rock. There were 3 cases at the scene, but Prosecutor Blackquill used the largest one. The moon rock was egg-shaped and only about 8 inches in diameter. It wouldn't have made any sense to use the largest case there just to move that rock. But be that as it may, it doesn't prove Miss Sykes was inside. Then let me ask you this. Can you come up with a better theory of what was in the case?
Well, Mr. Wright, can you?
Yikes. Give a guy some time to think. Let's see. Should I try to bluff my way through what could have been in that case? I mean, bluffing always works with Phoenix, but... Okay. Wait a minute. Was it the arm? Did he put the robot arm that was covered in blood in there? Hang on a second. Because that's gone. But... a bunch of stuff's gone. Huh. Hang on a second. That's... okay, there's the charger. Let's use that as our basis of comparison. So the charger's over there. So we can't really see what's on this side of the room in that other picture. I'm trying to figure out if we have a legitimate thing to talk about, but I don't think so. So that's the 7-year-old picture of him going in with that case. I wonder if he put that robot arm in there. Because... yeah. Let's bluff. Let's be fun. I know exactly what Prosecutor Blackquill carried from the scene. I just have to find something else that was missing, right? No sweat.
Oh, I'd be very interested in hearing your theory. If it's true, that is.
This is a crime scene photo taken after Prosecutor Blackquill left, correct? All we have to do is compare this with... this... oh, it is gone! The robot arm's gone! This photo of Prosecutor Blackquill to see what's missing. If he took something with him, then it should be in one of those photos. Lady Luck, don't fail me now.
All right then, Mr. Wright. Let us hear your theory. What did Prosecutor Blackquill take from the scene of the murder?
The arm. The robot arm with blood on it. Please notice that there is a robot part on top of the cart in this photo. However, in this photo taken after the crime, the robot part is gone. In other words, this part is something that was taken from the scene of the crime.
You do appear to be right. I don't see it in the second picture.
But it's just a piece of junk. How important could it be? Is it really just an insignificant robot part? Speaking of which... what are you looking at? I'm gonna start charging for each glance per eyeball. Stingy, stingy. What happened to the age of free previews? Your Honor? About this robot part. Doesn't it look like it could be an arm from that robot there?
Well, now that you mention it, it does, doesn't it? But the case is still too big to be practical for just the moon rock and a robot arm.
But was it really just the one arm that was in there? We are in the dark age of the free previews. Yes. If it wasn't Athena in the case, then maybe. I believe there was another robot at the scene that looks just like the one here. Your Honor, it is the defense's assertion that it was this other robot that was in the case.
But what?
Well, it's made for carrying robots around, so that would make sense. We can't be certain that part belonged to a robot. Yes, it looks like the arm of the one before us, but it could be something else entirely. Besides, it's wrapped entirely in bandaging, making it difficult to verify what it is. I know for a fact that it is a robot arm. I can even tell which robot it belonged to just by looking at it. With this information, we can investigate whether it was there at the time or not.
But Mr. Wright, I thought you were more of the technologically illiterate type. When did you become such an expert? I feel somehow abandoned.
Not to worry, Your Honor. I still know next to nothing about machines. But I know this piece of evidence proves which robot the arm belonged to. All right. Present. Wait. Hang on. I totally hit the wrong thing. Is this conclusive enough for you? It's perfectly conclusive of your utter incompetence. Can't you just be normal for once and simply say that's wrong?
You've conclusively earned yourself a penalty as well, Mr. Wright.
Well, given the arm's distinctive features, this is the one conclusion that won't escape me. I may not know my hard disk from my floppy drive, but I know this piece of evidence. And do we have the picture? Which robot? Where's the picture? There we go. The Hat 1 exhibit. The robot in this picture is named Punko. But take a look at Punko's arm. It was Miss Sykes who bandaged it up like that.
She must have thought that machines heal in the same way that people do. What an adorable, naive mistake. It reminds me of my own grandchild.
The robot arm at the crime scene had the same bandaging wrapped around it. In other words, this robot arm could belong to none other than Punko.
Order in the court! Order, I say! Prosecutor Edgeworth, what do you have to say to this?
I concede that the robot is about the same size as a child, but it cannot grab its knees and curl itself up into a ball. Even if it was the largest of the cases, the robot couldn't have possibly fit in there.
The case does come up to about mid-thigh on Prosecutor Blackquill. I see your point. The robot is much taller than that.
They've got me there. Except that there's a disassembly machine there and we saw it. So then did Prosecutor Blackquill make Punko fit into the case by dismantling? Of course Punko would fit. All Prosecutor Blackquill had to do was dismantle her. Once taken apart, the robot could have easily fit inside that rolling case. It appears to be a robot assembly device. Disassemble anything in a flash. Push the dismantle button. That sounds pretty neat. Can I push it, Mr. Nick?
It sounds rather violent, but Mr. Wright does have a point there.
Except that there was a body on the table where robots are dismantled and assembled. There would have been no room to take the robot apart. But what if it wasn't done on the table? What if the katana was used instead?
You mean the sword?
Yes, Your Honor. Miss Blackquill, I'd like your opinion as a woman of science. Isn't it true that the katana could have been used to take the robot apart? I suppose so. Their joints aren't made of very tough material. A blade could slice through them. Thank you for your expert opinion, Miss Blackquill. Thanks to you, we now know. that the existence of the severed arm in this photo proves that Ponko was taken apart. In addition, since the rest of Ponko was not found at the scene, we can conclude that the true meaning of this photo is very different from the original interpretation.
You can't mean...
That's exactly what I mean. This photo does not capture the moment of the murder. It is instead a picture of the moment after the robot was sliced apart. The blood you see where the arm was cut off was transferred there by the bloody katana. Most likely, the rest of Ponko is scattered around Prosecutor Blackwell's feet. Not hearing this. Therefore, what was transported inside that case was not the defendant, but a robot. Miss Sykes never was at the scene at the time of the murder. Ah! My head, my body, where am I? Ugh.
Order in the court!
It's true that Ponko was found in pieces after the murder, and I'll admit I repaired her myself afterwards. Okay. The photo shows Blackwell taking the robot apart. We confirmed it. Yes, I'm finally making some progress. Hopefully, I've gotten at least one step closer to proving both Athena and Prosecutor Blackwell innocent. Well played, Mr. Wright. You've made your point abundantly clear. I can see that it wasn't the defendant inside the rolling case, but the robot. Alright, what's going on here? It's never good when he plays things this straight.
Does the prosecution withdraw its claim that the defendant was carried from the scene?
No, Your Honor. My claim hasn't changed.
But Ponko and Miss Sykes couldn't have both been inside that case.
The notion that the case was used to carry Miss Sykes was Miss Blackwell's theory. I have been of a different opinion from the outset. Now I finally have the opportunity to voice my theory. Thanks to the defense. Edgeworth, he's been one step ahead of me this whole time.
In that case, how do you propose the defendant left the crime scene?
Simple. The footage only shows Prosecutor Blackwell from behind. What's more, he's holding his arm in front of his body, as if he were holding something or someone. That's hardly evidence. I have proof. The surcoat Prosecutor Blackwell was wearing. The victim's blood was found on the front of it, and the stain had a highly distinctive shape.
A blood stain with a distinctive shape? Please continue, Prosecutor Edgeworth.
7 years ago, the defendant was known to constantly wear a certain item, of which there was only one in the world, a special pair of headphones made just for her. She always wore those big, heavy-looking headphones. She said her mother made them for her as part of her research. Analysis showed the bloodstain to be in the exact same shape as these headphones. In other words, this was no mere blood splatter. The blood went from the victim's body to the headphones, and then was imprinted onto Prosecutor Blackwell's coat, like a stamp.
A most gruesome stamp indeed!
Blackwell carried Miss Sykes, who had been hit by splatter, away from the crime scene. This proves that Athena Sykes was without question present at the crime scene. And that concludes the prosecution's argument.
Oh! Order! If the defendant was indeed at the scene, it deepens the suspicions about her.
But we've also shown that the robot was there at the scene as well. I hope you're not making the ridiculous claim that a simple robot was the real murderer. I don't really think that, no, but you can't say the possibility isn't there. Detective Fulbright, was the robot questioned at the time? No, I don't see any record of it. I believe it was considered unrelated to the case. But as it turned out, the robot was actually integrally related. Your Honor, the defense would like to call Punko to the stand.
A robot witness?
That's right, we're cross-examining a robot.
Order! Order in the court! Prosecutor Edgeworth! What do you think about this?
Mr. Wright has called all manner of witnesses to the stand over the years. So why not a robot? Nothing surprises me anymore with him.
Very well. I will allow the witness. Bailiff, please summon the robot named Ponko.
Witness, please state your name and occupation. My name is not Witness. My name is Punko. Yes, I realize that. But when you are at the witness stand, you are the witness. No, I'm not. I'm Punko. Say it with me. Punko. Yes. The streak of Edgeworth not being able to get witnesses to say their names and occupations simply continues.
What an utterly inflexible little robot.
You're the last person who should be calling anybody inflexible.
You remind me of my grandchild who just learned his own name. Oh, how precious.
All right, Punko. I'm going to ask you some questions. Questions? You have questions? Hooray! What are your questions? I want to know if you were there at the scene of the murder of Metis Sykes. It was 7 years ago, on the 7th of October, around 2 p.m., in the robotics lab. Certainly. Just one moment. Searching data. Search complete. Yes, I was there in the robotics lab. How did this not come up? It would seem this robot's testimony is necessary to this case after all. This is great. I just knew Punko must have seen something important.
A murder committed right before this poor little girl's eyes. It's inexcusable.
The judge seems ready to adopt Punko as another grandchild.
So, little Punko, do you think you can give us your testimony today?
Let's see. What I saw. I went to the robotics lab at about 2 p.m. for my regular recharge. Just as I was about to charge up, Athena came in and hugged Mommy Metis. And then Mommy Metis fell down. After that, I was recharging, so I don't know anything. After I charged up, I was cleaning the room and Mr. Simon came in. And then an error occurred. There is no data after that point.
Well, it sounds like the defendant was, without question, at the scene. However, it doesn't appear that the witness saw the actual moment of the murder.
I disagree. This testimony shows that the defendant did indeed commit the crime. What? At the end of the day, we mustn't forget that the witness is still a machine. Being a robot, its understanding and capacity to express itself are limited.
So what are you suggesting?
The witness's statements need to be interpreted. For example, the terms hugged and then later fell down. Adults don't usually fall down after being hugged by a child.
They don't, but...
Yes, what this witness's statements are telling us is that the defendant stabbed the victim with a murder weapon during this moment. What? Before Miss Sykes hugged Dr. Sykes, did the two of them converse? Yes, they did. They spoke to each other very loudly, but I don't know what they said. Athena is usually so quiet, so I was surprised. Spoke very loudly. We can interpret this to mean they argued.
I see. Murder after a heated argument, and then the victim fell down. I agree that it does sound like a reasonable interpretation. However, Punko doesn't seem to remember anything that happened after that.
When I am recharging, I go into sleep mode. But I remember everything before that. I have a very good memory. You may as well admit defeat now, right? Cross-examination would be useless. Don't be ridiculous. A cross-examination is never useless. Until now. Think about it. Robots don't lie. This robot is both an important witness and valuable evidence at the same time. Nevertheless, I will have my cross-examination. I see you haven't changed. You never were one to worry about wasting time.
Very well. Even if it may be a waste of time, you may proceed, Mr. Wright.
I'll show you both just how fruitful any cross-examination can be. So I have a theory that, because we've really gone around and around to establish that the robots only key off of what someone is wearing. So I'm wondering if her headphones were what the robots keyed off of to identify Athena, and somebody else was wearing her headphones and murdered her mother. So Ponko here thinks it was Athena. What I saw. Alright, I went to the robotics lab at about 2 p.m. Yeah. Your regular recharge. What is that exactly? I have to refill my battery's power or else I stop working. I go to the lab to do that. So that recharge occurred around 2 p.m., around the time of the murder. That's right. I go every day at 2 p.m. Just as I was about to charge up, Athena came in. Yep. Hugged her, huh? Which Edgeworth took to me and stabbed her with a weapon? You said the two of them were talking before Miss Sykes hugged her mother, is that right? Yes, they were talking very loudly. But I couldn't tell what they were saying. Couldn't tell, even though they were speaking so loudly? I'm only allowed to listen to voices that are directed at me. If I listened to every voice, it would be little better than a mobile eavesdropper. Well, that explains why some of Ponko's testimony is so vague. It's a shame that our little friend wasn't listening in, however. He could have learned what they were talking about just before Dr. Sykes was killed. Now then, what happened after that? And then Mommy Metis fell down after that, charging, so I don't know anything. I don't want to delve too deeply here, but could you tell us how the victim appeared and acted at this moment? Mommy Metis was very surprised when she was hugged. I heard her heart pound. Her heart. Mr. Wright, have you forgotten about this document we found in the robotics lab? These robots have a heartbeat detection system. Now that he mentions it, I do remember reading something like that there. Yep. They detect the presence. Yeah. But wait a minute. That means if Dr. Sykes really did die at this moment. Ponko, how was Dr. Sykes after she fell down? Could you still hear the sound of her heartbeat? Let's see, the moment she fell, her heart was pounding. After that, I don't know. I started recharging just then. Of all the unlucky timing! If you'd heard anything after that, it could have possibly proved that the hug wasn't actually the moment of the murder. I'm very sorry. I'm afraid I don't know. I'm very sorry. The robot is designed to go into sleep mode automatically, so it can't be helped. But it does appear it detected an increased heart rate at the moment of the stabbing. After Mommy Metis' heart started pounding in surprise, she fell by the window. It was the round window on the workbench side of the room. The workbench, huh? Ponko must be talking about that table to the right of where that giant robot is now. Is there something critical in Ponko's statement just now? Yeah, because the robot's not there anymore. Let's see. There is something. Your Honor, I believe this statement is critical. I'd like it added to her testimony.
Very well. Ponko, could you please add that statement to your testimony? That's a good little girl.
Mommy Metis fell down near the round window on the workbench side of the room. Hang on a second. The round window... But her body was found there. Yeah, we got a problem here. Ponko, your statement may have just inspired a breakthrough. I was helpful. Hooray! I'm so happy. Just to be sure, let's go over it again, okay? The victim fell near the window on the workbench side of the room. However... her body was discovered on the operating table.
But the operating table and the workbench are two different locations.
Exactly, Your Honor. We've just learned a new, crucial fact. What could explain the two very different locations of the body? I'll tell you what. The victim moved, the defendant moved the body. The victim moved, maybe? Let's see. An 11-year-old girl couldn't have moved the heavy body of an adult. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So the only explanation is that the victim walked to the operating table herself. In other words, what Punko observed near the workbench couldn't possibly been the moment of the murder. Okay, I'm getting it now. Because, like, that's interesting.
Ooh, I'm very relieved to hear that. Glad to know that the murder wasn't committed in front of little Punko here.
Yes, as we just heard in the testimony, Miss Sykes hugged her mother. Nothing more.
Objection!
Right. It's been 8 years, but you're still just as green as ever.
Green? But I can't recall ever zipping Mr. Wright in anything but a blue suit.
Hey, blue is my favorite color. What can I say? If the defendant couldn't move the body herself, she could have had it moved for her. But Miss Sykes and Dr. Sykes were the only ones there. I agree. Since this robot is equipped with a heartbeat detection system, it would have been aware of another person's presence if someone else had been there. We can therefore conclude that the defendant and the victim were the only ones present.
Then who do you suggest move the body?
Don't you know it's in the nature of a robot to help people do things? Miss Punko, allow me to ask you a question. My name is Punko, say it with me. Punko. I believe you said you were cleaning after Dr. Sykes fell down. Did you happen to move something large onto the operating table? Yes, I did. Athena asked me to. Athena asked you to?
And what did you move, little Punko?
I don't know. Unless something has an ID tag, I can't tell what it is.
An ID tag, you say?
Yes, a tag with a barcode on it. We robots scan them to tell us what a thing is. That paper in the lab did mention something about that. And you will note in the picture, her code is off, so she could not have been identified. Interesting. Yep. Recognizes people by scanning their spacesuit or uniform jacket ID tag, it said. So it would appear that Miss Punko here can't identify what it moved. My name is Punko! But we humans have the power to imagine what it was, do we not?
We do?
Well, I do, at the very least. Miss Punko, on the defendant's command, moved the body onto the operating table. Gah! I wonder if Punko will have any psycho locks. Yes. I was kind of thinking that too. Punko, did you really move Dr. Sykes' body? This is really important. Isn't there any way you could tell? I don't know. Without an ID tag, I can't tell. Give it up, right? If the victim's heart was stopped, the robot's detection system would be useless. Furthermore, Dr. Sykes usually wore her white coat while she was working. She kept the jacket with her ID tag on it draped over a chair in the robotics lab, and only wore it for special occasions. In other words, the victim wasn't wearing her ID tag at the time. From the robot's point of view, her body was simply just another object. But Punko is equipped with a facial recognition system. If she really did move the victim, she would have recognized the body as Dr. Sykes. But she didn't. So that means the face can easily be covered with a piece of cloth, a mask, or anything else for that matter. With her facial features hidden, the robot wouldn't be able to tell it was Dr. Sykes. He's right. To summarize, Miss Sykes stabbed her mother near the workbench. Then, using the robot, she moved the body to the table, where she removed the sword and was stained in blood.
But if that's the case, then I have a question. Why did the defendant move the body to the operating table in the first place?
You want a reason? Very well. What? You can't possibly have an explanation. Your emotions blind you to the truth. You could learn a lot from our robot friends. Calm and rational thought will open your eyes to the truth in front of you, Mr. Wright. Now then, do you remember the operating table's one special feature?
I believe I read that robots can be assembled and disassembled there, isn't that right?
That's right. And to the defendant, who was just a child at the time, the table was like a magic box that could make robots appear or disappear in seconds. But in the end, my mom just put her on the operating table and fixed her in a flash. I was so impressed by what my mom did. I even asked her if she would put me on the table and fix me if I ever got hurt. It looked just like magic to me, what she could do. You can't possibly be suggesting this young, sheltered girl had a difficult time distinguishing robots from people. But take a look at Ponko's arm. It was Miss Sykes who bandaged it up like that. Right.
She must have thought that machines heal in the same way people do. What an adorable, naive mistake. Reminds me of my own grandchild.
No way. I refuse to believe it. Miss Sykes made a childish, naive, and cruel mistake. She thought that if a robot could be dismantled and vanish without a trace...
Prosecutor Edgeworth, if you're about to claim what I think you are, I demand that you word it as delicately as you can.
With all due respect, Your Honor, all I can do is present the truth as it stands. The reason the defendant moved the victim's body to the operating table... No! Don't say another word! Just stop! Was to dismantle the evidence so that she could get away with her crime. That can't be true!
Order! Order in the court! Order in the court, I say!
Edgeworth, she was just a little kid. How can you say such a horrible thing? Horrible? Like I said, you're just as green as ever. I came here today as a prosecutor to seek only the truth. No more, no less. My theory is simply the result of a rational consideration of every possibility.
Objection!
But dismantling isn't the table's only function. It can make repairs as well. It's conceivable that Miss Sykes moved her mother to the table in order to fix her. I suppose that could be another way of interpreting it. But dismantle or repair, it doesn't matter either way. What do you mean? After murdering her mother, Miss Sykes may have come to her senses. Perhaps she did want to make it appear as if it had never happened. And that's why she tried to repair her mother. Yes, that's one possible explanation. But we mustn't forget the facts of this case. The victim was observed to fall down after being hugged by the defendant, and the body was moved per the defendant's command. These two facts that indicate the defendant's guilt, remain unchanged. This just can't be true.
Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence to refute the prosecution's claim?
Evidence? Right, let's see. I can't think of any. I'm afraid I don't have any evidence. Since becoming chief prosecutor, I've learned that the truth isn't always pretty. Now accept the truth, Mr. Wright. Your subordinate murdered her own mother. Your Honor, the prosecution demands a verdict. The hostages have suffered enough.
What a terrible and tragic conclusion. If the defense has no counter-argument, I see no need to further prolong this trial.
Edgeworth's argument seems solid enough. But there's no way Athena could have ever done anything like that. What do I do? There has to be something. But I can't think of a single thing.
What? Prosecutor Blackquill?
This is quite the farce you're conducting here. I could die from laughter. Prosecutor Blackquill? What are you talking about? What I'm talking about is that your argument is based on an entirely false premise. Go on. We're listening. Could this be the miracle I need? What is Prosecutor Blackquill trying to pull here? 7 years. For 7 long years. This case has been on my mind. Not for an instant did I not think of it. I'm the one who killed my mentor, and don't think you can alter the fact now. Your boldness, I will take to the stand, and I won't take no for an answer.
Of course, Prosecutor Blackquill, please, go ahead.
He... what? This is sudden. 7 years ago, okay? I went to the Cosmos Space Center with the intention of killing Dr. Sykes. But when I got to the robotics lab, I found Athena there instead. I would not be swayed from my purpose, so I waited for Dr. Sykes to return. And then I committed the act. Ah, how cathartic it was.
But little Ponko here witnessed the victim falling. In other words...
I don't need any of your other words, old man. I can guess what happened.
Which would be?
She fell means she fell. Merely that. A mother and child fooling around. Perhaps she tripped. Not that it matters. When I entered the lab, there was no trace of Dr. Sykes to be seen. There was no dead body either, of course, meaning she must have left the room.
So the murder occurred after the time period Ponko described in her testimony?
You should hardly take stock in the words of a wind-up toy. Then how do you explain the fact that the defendant had the robot move something? Athena was always tinkering with robots on the operating table to amuse herself, and she always had Ponko move the heavy ones for her. That day was no different. Ponko moved a heavy robot for Athena. This is awful. What he's saying seems to make sense, and yet... Prosecutor Blackquill, are you trying, even now, to turn away from the truth? Don't you realize we could bring the dark age of the law to a close today? You expect too much from me. I'm just a murderer, beyond redemption. Why don't you just let me go so I can settle down into hell? Ugh. Prosecutor Blackquill's the execution is tomorrow. If the truth doesn't come out now, it's all over.
Are you saying that the little girl and the robot had nothing to do with the murder?
That's right. So let's hear your verdict. If we don't hurry, I might miss the ferry across the Styx. Don't you dare, Judge. Don't forget I have hostages over here. And Simon, how long are you going to cover for her? Miss Blackquill? Forgive me, Aura. Never wanted you to do anything like this for me. But you agreed to this trial. If you have a counter-argument, then present your evidence. That's the rule of the courtroom. Isn't that right, Chief Prosecutor? Blackquill, you selfish...
Well, to be frank, I don't like this. But it's my duty to make a decision. If no one has a counter-argument, I will announce my verdict.
Is this really happening? Is it really going to end just like it did 7 years ago? I wanted to do it so bad. Even now, I want to fly out of here and go save him. No, I can't tell her. But how can I lie to Athena? If I can't prove Prosecutor Blackwell's innocence in this trial, I don't think Athena will ever forgive me. I can't let this happen, but I just don't have the evidence to counter Prosecutor Blackwell's testimony. Athena, what are you feeling okay? I can hear it. I can hear the voice of his heart. He's hiding something. If he really is, I could sure use Athena's help here. Her power might be just the thing to get us through this.
Objection!
Sykes, Dono. No need for you to chime in here. Just accept that you're innocent.
These past 7 years, they've been just as hard on me, you know?
What are you talking about?
Do you remember that horrible, horrible trial? Please, you have to listen to me. He didn't kill her. His heart is screaming that he didn't kill her. Even now, every time I stand in a courtroom, it comes back to haunt me. Not being heard, no matter how hard you try, feeling so helpless. Caught in people's stares, so scared that it feels like your chest is in a vice. I'm terrified of courtrooms. I want to run out of that door even now. And yet you found a way to keep your fears at bay and become a lawyer. Thanks. That's because one day, I came to realize that I had to fight. I couldn't give up. I exercised hard, and I studied hard. I wanted to become the strongest lawyer I could be. This day has finally come. The day I've been looking forward to with all my heart. This is why I became a lawyer. This is why I studied psychology. It was all to save you from this false conviction.
But Miss Sykes, do you realize what it would mean? You are the accused, after all. If you prove Prosecutor Blackquill innocent, then...
The only thing that matters is the truth. It's my duty to find out what that truth is. Simon, please, give me this chance. A chance to shake off this fear that's been with me for 7 years and to face the truth. Athena's being so brave, confronting her past like this. This must really be the last chance to save them both. Prosecutor Blackquill, please testify one more time about the incident 7 years ago.
Fine. But your efforts will surely be in vain, for I am not a man who can be cut down easily.
Here we go, Simon. Let me hear the voice of your heart. Okay. Went to the Cosmos Space Center with the intention of killing Dr. Sykes, so he's really angry when he's saying that. But when I got to the robotics lab, I found Athena there instead. Okay. He's very happy about that. Oh, he's slightly happy, but he's really angry. I would not be swayed from my purpose, so I waited for Dr. Sykes to return. Okay. And then I committed the act. Ah, how cathartic it was. Okay. His emotions are very guarded, and his defenses are way up. He's steeled his will, as if he'll never let his secrets be known. Oh, I don't know about that. We've got a couple of strong wills on our side, too. Prosecutor Blackquill isn't the killer, and we're going to prove it. But what was he trying to do that day? If we approach it from that angle, I bet we can find an emotion that just doesn't add up. Alright, I went to the Cosmos Space Center. Is it... It stands out to me that he's very happy that she's there. Let's... Because, like, his consistent is he's angry, he starts to get a little bit happy, then he's purely happy, like super, super happy, and then he's super, super happy. I have a feeling his happiness is that he's happy that he's covering for her. That he thinks he's covering. Because I feel like they are all being manipulated somehow. But anyway, let's check this out. Yeah. Let's see. Is this right? It might be. This feeling of happiness. Even though the person you were looking for wasn't there, you felt happy. Why is that?
Simple. When I was looking for Athena and hadn't found her yet, I grew worried. So when I saw her in the robotics lab, I was happily relieved. Merely that.
Well, that did reduce a bunch of noise. Just now you said that you went to the Space Center to kill Dr. Sykes. But the first thing you did was look for her daughter instead.
I had no intention of harming Athena, so I wanted to confirm that she was safe first. It was just part of my plan. Nothing contradictory about that.
Gah. The second I find an inconsistency, he cuts it down. Simon knows the principles of analytical psychology. There's less noise now, but I don't see any instabilities we can latch onto. I was afraid of that. We'll just have to keep chipping away at him, then, bit by bit. Could you update his testimony, Athena? You got it, boss. Alright. I went to the Cosmos Space Center with the intention of killing Dr. Sykes. Info update. Okay. When I found Athena in the robotics lab, I was relieved. Okay. But I would not be swayed from my purpose, so I waited for Dr. Sykes to return. And when she did, I plunged the katana in. Oh, that's neat. Why is he sad about that? He's suddenly very sad about it. Not even you can falsify your emotions, Prosecutor Blackwell.
What?
When you said that you killed Dr. Sykes in your testimony, you felt sadness. Why would someone who had lain in wait to kill her be sad at her death?
Such an obvious attack. Yes, I felt sadness. But it wasn't for her. I felt sorrow for Athena and her circumstances.
He can't be talking about that. Can he? I was just a convenient subject for her research.
Dr. Sykes was so intent on her research, she forced her daughter to undergo experiments. My objective was to save Athena from an obsessive scientist who treated her own daughter like a research subject.
What?
I went to the psychology lab first. That's where I'd usually find Athena playing. But that day was different. I heard someone crying in the robotics lab next door. Was Athena being subjected to yet another experiment? I thought as I went to see. Conveniently, Athena had cried herself to sleep, so all I had to do was wait and kill. So that's why he was relieved when he saw Athena.
But is this story really true? I'm not sure how much to believe. Mr. Wright, how are you doing, Athena? Still hanging in there? I'm a lot stronger than I look, boss. Now take a look at this. The noise level actually increased. Oh, it did. It went up? I've never seen it do that before. Prosecutor Blackwell is lying somewhere in his testimony. As a matter of fact, he's piling lie on top of lie in an attempt to make his claims sound more believable. He's trying even harder to suppress his true feelings, and that's what's causing the noise. How in the world should I approach this? An evidence-based approach might work, if I could find a contradiction. Otherwise, I should look for an inconsistency in his emotions.
There are no flaws in my testimony, and his boldness is prepared to give his verdict. Give up on this lost cause, and let the law free me of these chains already.
I don't think so. Not while I'm around. Now, contradictory testimony or inconsistent emotions. Which should I tackle first? Let's go after the emotions. Okay, let's look for inconsistent emotions. Got it, boss. But if you want to try looking for a contradictory statement instead, just let me know. I can easily switch over. Okay? So I heard crying from next door. Of course I was worried. So, hang on a second. We got sadness and surprise. I hurried over and opened the door to the robotics lab. He's extremely surprised. Why is he extremely surprised? Because he said that she would be there normally. That one stands out. But before I could lead Athena out of there, curse my luck, Dr. Sykes came in. Angry and surprised. I refused to hand Athena over, so I had no choice but to kill my mentor. Okay? If you see an unusual or out-of-place emotion, just point it out. Is there really an inconsistency in his emotions, though? We could take a break and go back to looking for contradictory testimony. Let's just press on, because I think I know the right one. I still think I can find an inconsistency in his emotions. Let's press on. Okay, but if you ever want to switch, I'm ready anytime. Trying... I think it's this one. He's only surprised. Why is he just surprised? And so surprised. How odd. Why would you register surprise at opening the door to the lab?
Alright, fine. I'll explain if I must. What surprised me was Ponko. That toy figure attacked me. Dr. Sykes knew full well of my plan to rescue Athena, but she couldn't stand guard over her daughter 24 hours a day.
So Dr. Sykes had Ponko do it?
That's right. She ordered Ponko to forcibly remove me on sight. So I slashed Ponko up with the katana that was there in the lab. That rickety old puppet wasn't worthy of that fine blade.
Mr. Wright, it's happening again. There's even more noise now. Oh my gosh. It's at 100% now. What's going on here? Whenever we find an opening, he covers it up with more lies. We'll never get rid of the noise at this rate. It's because he's a master of psychological manipulation. That is why. It's pretty hard to keep telling coherent lies like that. His mind and will really are as sharp and strong as a katana. Alright, what should I tackle first this time? Testimony or emotions? Well... we hit the emotions... What do we have, evidence-wise? We said Ponko attacked him. The problem is that how would Ponko know? Because he would need to be wearing a spacesuit or a ID tag. He would not know. Wait, can also recognize a person by facial features once the face has been registered. Okay. That's interesting. What else? And that's the photo. Well, hang on. Wait a minute. In this photo, he says that he dismembered Ponko, right? But the blade has blood on it, and Ponko's arm has blood on it. So if he was dismantling Ponko, why would the arm have blood on it if he dismantled Ponko before she was murdered? Yeah, I think I'm starting to figure this out. So let's go after his testimony. I think there might be an inconsistency in Prosecutor Blackwell's testimony. Alright, let's give it a thorough check then. Right, with a feeling of dread, I opened the robotics lab door just then. There we go, this is the update. Ponko attacked me. I retaliated by cutting it into pieces. Hang on. Before I could lead Athena out... So hang on. He's dismantled Ponko, and then... Note also, Ponko does not have bandages in this image. But Ponko had blood when he dismantled Ponko. Ponko does not have blood in this, and he says he did that before. So I think the crime scene photo contradicts this.
Objection!
And I think we're right. Compounding lies with more lies is never the answer, Prosecutor Blackwell. Take a look at this photo.
That's the photo of the supposed moment of the murder, isn't it? How many more times must I see that which damned me for my sin?
The ironic thing is, I think this picture is actually going to be your savior now. See the blood stain at the end of Ponko's arm, where it was severed with a katana?
I hope you aren't claiming it's the robot's blood, Mr. Wright.
No, most likely the blood was transferred there from the bloody katana.
The katana already had blood on it? So then it must have been the victim's blood.
That's right, but if that's the case, we found a glaring inconsistency. You said in your testimony that you cut up Ponko and then you killed Dr. Sykes. But in spite of that, the victim's blood is already on Ponko's arm in this picture.
What? But that couldn't be!
Exactly. In order for the blood to have transferred from the sword to Ponko's arm, the victim must have been stabbed first, before the robot was slashed. In other words, Prosecutor Blackquill, your entire testimony is nothing but one giant ball of lies.
Gah!
Tell the court the truth, Prosecutor Blackquill, now!
You have no idea what you're doing!
His voice. There's so much discord. I'm hearing not just one or two, but a bunch of rampaging emotions here. It's hard to describe. It's like a violent whirlpool or something.
Phoenix Wright, you will pay for this. Never have I been forced to reveal so much, but the rest I'll take to my grave.
Prosecutor Blackquill, you are on the witness stand. You are obligated to tell the truth. Isn't that the rule of the courtroom? All of these complex emotions, they seem to be flowing from one source. I think whatever he really saw that day is what's causing these feelings. Alright. Alright. Yikes. Following the sound of crying, I opened the lab door, and then... I saw it, that terrible scene. But before I could lead Athena out of there, curse my luck, Dr. Sykes came in. I had no choice but to kill my mentor. I saw it, that terrible scene. The chair. Was she already dead? Is this it? The root cause of all these emotions is this. I'm actually not getting any particularly big reading there, Mr. Wright. I guess that's not it then. What could have caused Blackquill to react with all of these emotions all at once? Athena, Ponko, Blackquill. But before Blackquill, the robotics lab. Wait. Was Athena causing it? Was she like covered in blood or something? Oh, I bet it is. When you opened the door and saw Athena, you became overwhelmed by your emotions. Isn't that right, prosecutor?
You should know better. Though it's pathetic. I admit, I'm terrified to speak of it.
Prosecutor Blackquill, Miss Sykes is innocent. I will always believe that with all my heart. Now, can't you find it within yourself to believe in me, too?
Athena is innocent, huh? Can you honestly say you believe that to be true, right, Dono?
I give you my word. Now tell me what you really saw when you opened that door.
Curse you, Phoenix, right?
Oh, did we actually get... Nice. It was a tragedy, one I'll never forget. When I arrived... Believe in the me who believes in you, Prosecutor Blackwell. Yes!
At the lab, Dr. Sykes was already dead. She was lying on the operating table, while the bloody katana lay on the floor, and standing between the two, covered in blood, was Athena. She smiled, with a far-off look in her eyes, as she sweetly said, "Something's wrong with Mom, so I'm taking her apart to fix her."
Wow.
That's what I saw, and now you have it. The truth that you so desperately wanted.
No. Prosecutor Blackwell finally tells the truth. And this is what it is? It's beyond devastating. I tried to take my mother apart? I... No! No! Okay. So it was me. I'm the one who killed my mother. Athena! As I said, right. The truth isn't always pretty. Murder, disassembly on an operating table, a scientist using her daughter as a guinea pig. Sadly, it appears that my theory was correct after all.
Objection!
It's true that Athena didn't like her mother's research, but you dare cast aspersions on my mentor by claiming Athena was used in such a manner? Dr. Sykes could be awkward with people, but she loved her daughter with all her heart.
She loved me?
Your mother hated to see you suffer because you could hear the voices of people's hearts. She wanted to set you free of your pain, so she worked tirelessly on her research. Do you remember those headphones you hated so much?
Yes. My head hurt every time I wore them.
No, Athena. It's just the opposite. They emitted sound waves to nullify emotional input from the voices of people around you. Your power was much stronger than it is now. Those headphones were what enabled you to carry on with everyday life.
No, that can't be true. Then why? Why would I have done something like that? To somebody who loved me so much.
Her love for you was real. That I could guarantee. That's why I knew that what happened had to be some kind of mistake. I couldn't let you be punished for it.
So you took the blame yourself. You and your mentor are more alike than you know.
Ponko was a witness, so I put it in the case, held Athena close, and vacated the lab. I threw Ponko away in the boarding lounge trash chute, and I hid the case on the Space Center grounds. It would seem that we now have all of the facts of this case.
No! Not yet! It can't end like this!
Do not disgrace yourself, Mr. Wright. The truth has been revealed. Or are you the type of man to turn your back to things that disagree with you?
I'm not... But this... I can't give up now. I have to say something. Anything. Even if it's a bluff. I've always managed to pull through that way in the past. I have to make it work. The defense is prepared to present evidence. Mr. Wright. Yes, Athena? It's okay. You can stop now. I don't want you or anyone else to suffer any longer for my sake. Athena, what are you saying? I killed my mother. That's the truth. It's just like Prosecutor Edgeworth said. We have to face it, no matter how much it hurts. I admit my guilt. But could I please be granted just one chance to tell everyone what I recall?
It appears Miss Sykes is much braver than you, Mr. Wright. What say you, Your Honor? In light of her courage, will the court give Miss Sykes this opportunity to confess?
Very well. Then, if you would, please take the stand, Miss Sykes. Thank you for letting me do this, Prosecutor Edgeworth. And thank you, Mr. Wright and Prosecutor Blackwell, for letting the truth be known. Now we can finally move forward, and everyone's suffering can come to an end. Athena, Prosecutor Blackwell will be cleared, and the dark age of the law can come to an end. Yes, admit your guilt, and bring everything to its conclusion. I killed my mother. My memory is still a little hazy, but there's no question I remember it. I remember the weight of the weapon in my hands and the feeling of it stabbing in deep. And I remember the warmth of her blood as it flowed down the handle onto my fingers. Your Honor, please find me guilty. I dare say. These are all memories that no one but the murderer would have.
I see. Thank you for your confession. I believe this trial has gone on long enough. But before we conclude, does anyone have a counter-argument?
Objection!
I do, Your Honor.
Mr. Wright.
But, Mr. Wright, why? I killed her. I remember it now. Any counter-argument now is pointless.
Objection!
Don't tell me you've forgotten one of the basic tenets of lawyering. Always believe in the client to the bitter end. Athena, you are not a murderer.
Objection!
I said that you would never change, but could you have actually regressed in these 8 years?
I won't stand for your childish emotionalism getting in the way of the truth.
Emotionalism? Don't lecture me on matters of the heart, Edgeworth. Because I can see straight into a person's soul. Oh my gosh, the first time he's ever used the Megatama in court. I did a little research. I looked into those special psych locks you mentioned, Mr. Nick. Athena isn't trying to keep anything from you on purpose. For some reason, part of her heart and her memories are sealed off, even from herself. They're still there. There's still a chance. Somewhere deep in Athena's heart. There might still be a memory that not even she knows about yet. It might be like looking for a grain of sand somewhere in the cosmos, but still, that memory might contain a new fact that could prove her innocence.
I hope for everyone's sake that you're not just bluffing, Mr. Wright. Now then, is there or is there not a problem with Miss Sykes' confession?
My memory is still a little hazy, but there's no question I remember it. I remember the weight of the weapon in my hands and the feeling of it stabbing in deep. And I remember the warmth of her blood as it flowed down the handle onto my fingers. There is no blood on the handle. There is no blood on the handle. I remembered from the picture, there is no blood on the handle. The blood stops. I mean, there's literally an arrow pointing to it where it stops right there. Like, your memory is incorrect. The handle would be stained with blood then. There's definitely something wrong with her memory of the event. I can just tell.
If there's a problem with her confession, please prove it to this court now.
The katana.
Isn't that the katana the defendant used to kill the victim, Mr. Wright?
I respectfully and vehemently disagree, Your Honor. But I remember it. I remember holding the weapon and getting blood on my fingers. That's exactly my point. If blood really did get on your fingers while you were holding it, there should be blood on the handle. But please focus on the handle of this sword. There's not a trace of blood on it. And therefore, this is clearly a contradiction of the facts. You're right.
Oh my!
Objection!
The defendant must have simply confused a portion of her memories. She mentioned it was hazy to begin with, and we can't mull over every minor detail.
Objection!
But she also said there's no question I remember it, a fact we can't ignore. In that case, why don't you explain what this contradiction with her memories means?
Gladly.
Just give me a sec to think of something. I want to say that Athena didn't stab anyone, but she said it herself that she remembers the feeling of committing the act. Think, Phoenix, think. What could the contradiction with Athena's memories mean? The defendant used a different weapon. The blood was wiped off. The defendant used a different weapon. Miss Sykes said blood flowed down the handle, but the katana's handle is spotless. So, doesn't it follow that the defendant must have used a weapon other than the katana? What are you up to this time? This is it. This time I found just the thing to end Athena's nightmare for good. The weapon that took Dr. Sykes' life was the katana. That much is sure. So if I can show a possibility that Athena didn't use the katana, it could help me prove her innocent.
A different weapon, you say? What weapon would that be exactly?
Right, of course he would ask that. I can see you're floundering, Mr. Wright. Did you speak without thinking again, as always? Does he do that? But I can't back down, not here. Not now. That's right, I did. Because it's so obvious it doesn't require any thought. What did you say? Okay, so maybe that was an exaggeration, but there has to be something. Was there some other bladed weapon in the robotics lab that day? Maybe there's something in one of the crime scene photos. Wait a minute. There is something. There is a high probability that that was in the lab. I don't have that particular weapon here in evidence right now, but I do have a piece of evidence just like it. Other than the katana, this is another blade that may have been at the crime scene. Hang on. Not the utility knife. The rock? Space rock? The space rock? Did she use the space rock? Let's see.
How does that evidence suggest that there was another bladed weapon at the scene?
Well, when you put it that way, I'm not sure.
Then let me give you a little jolt, help you be sure next time.
That wasn't so bad. Anyway, the crime scene was a robotics lab. They must have had blades of some kind. And they have something just like it in evidence. Okay? We do. Okay. Wait, a screwdriver? A screwdriver? I could see that because she was trying to fix her mom. And look, there's a set of screws right there. Was it a screwdriver? Let's see. Nope, that's not it. Huh. Let's see. Bladed weapon. Wait a minute. It has the victim's blood on it from a set of utility tools used by Space Center techs. So, was it a knife? A utility knife? It says it's used by Space Center techs. Did they all have utility knives with them? Maybe. Let's try it.
Oh, yeah. But that's the murder weapon in the Clay Terran case.
Yes, this is the knife that took Mr. Terran's life. But there must have been a knife just like this at the scene 7 years ago as well. Toolkits containing utility knives like this one are issued to Space Center employees, and a robotics lab especially would naturally have one of these around. But, besides the katana, no other bladed weapon was found at the site. It was in the investigation reports, if you didn't know. Of course I knew that! When she told me just now. Then here's something else you already knew. There was a toolkit at the scene, but it didn't contain any blades. Here is a photo of its contents.
you're right. I don't see any kind of bladed tool.
There's obviously something missing. Well, what's this blade got? Oh, look at that. It's the... They have it... It's out of order, too. But it's supposed to say Gyaxa, and that's the A. Look at that. I figured it out for you, Edgeworth. Yeah, how's that for logic? Huh, fine. But isn't there something odd about the design on these handles? Therefore, there was no other bladed weapon in the room. I disagree. This toolkit contained a knife. And what proof do you have of that? Don't tell me your eye for art is failing you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You're the last person in the world who should be criticizing my aesthetic sense.
Now, he's simply watching out for your ocular health. Please proceed, Mr. Wright.
Notice that the handles of each of these tools have a sort of design on them?
Ah, I see that they do, but what significance does that have?
It's clear that one of the tools is missing from this kit. If we rearrange the tools into a specific pattern, we might be able to tell which part of the overall design is missing. Is that the theory your pitiful sense of aesthetics helped you come up with? Edgeworth, just let it go, man. Show the court then, if you would. What pattern or design would we see if we were to rearrange the tools? The pamphlet?
And what design is this supposed to represent?
The Gyaxa logo, Your Honor. It's on all of the Space Center's documents and pamphlets. As you're aware, Gyaxa is the program that operates the Cosmos Space Center. Look at how brightly the Gyaxa logo shines in the sunlight above the entranceway. I really dig the stars and rocket motif it's got going. Gyaxa, huh? Isn't that the new name of this federal space R&D program?
Ah, I think I see it now, but...
Yes, with just the tools shown in this photo, the red A part of the logo is missing. And this is where the murder weapon from the Terran case comes into play. If we were to place the utility knife in the open slot, it would complete the Gyaxa logo.
So it would! Well, then that means...
Admit it, Mr. Edgeworth. My aesthetic sense is keener than yours. And while you're at it, admit that the weapon Miss Sykes used could have been this one.
Order in the court!
Miss Sykes confessed to having a memory of stabbing the victim. Admittedly, Miss Sykes most likely did stab someone using the utility knife. However, the weapon used to kill Dr. Sykes was the katana. Therefore, the act of stabbing that Miss Sykes remembers couldn't be that of Dr. Sykes. Very well. Let's suppose for a minute that Miss Sykes did use the utility knife. Tell me, how does that change anything? Come again? What if the katana was only being used as a decoy to conceal the true murder weapon? What if the real weapon that took the victim's life was the utility knife? Don't be ridiculous! Or are you changing the premise of your entire argument? I'm merely offering a hypothetical situation derived from your logic. Miss Sykes could have put blood on the katana to make it look like the murder weapon, and then concealed the knife on her personage until Blackquill carried her away.
That does clear up the contradiction between Miss Sykes' memories and the evidence.
If, in fact, the murder weapon is a utility knife, then fate has dealt you a cruel hand. But you have just proven the knife's existence to the rest of us with your own logic. The prosecution is attempting to lead the court. You're the one attempting to lead the court, Mr. Wright, by forcing us to forget the facts of this case. Need I remind you that there were only 2 people in the lab at the time of the murder? And quite the plan for the 6-year-old girl, wherever, yeah, she was. I know, right? The defendant herself recalls stabbing someone with her own hands. No. It matters not whether the murder weapon was a katana or a utility knife, as long as we know that the victim and the defendant were the only ones there. You cannot escape the fact that it was Athena Sykes who killed her own mother. I don't believe it. Why? Why does this keep happening? Every time I find a contradiction, it vanishes, and the suspicion keeps coming back. It's almost as if... Now you're finally starting to get it. Your contradictions keep vanishing because the charge is true. And the suspicion keeps coming back to the defendant because that's where it belongs. Phoenix Wright, when will you open your eyes and accept the truth? Ugh. Ah! I don't want to believe it. Can't be true. But what if...
Mr. Wright, you have fought a good fight. I think you've done all you can do.
Is giving up really the only option? No, snap out of it, Phoenix. What's the matter with you? Giving in to doubt. I can't look back. Forward is the only way to go. No, Your Honor, not yet. It isn't over yet. Right? Can't lose sight of what's important. I believe in Athena, and I'll always believe in her. To the very end. A defense lawyer never gives up on his client. I have to pick myself up and stand firm. Make that brain of yours work, Phoenix! If I don't see a way, I'll just have to go back and look for one. Time to rethink this case. Thoroughly. Oh, nice. I concede the fact that Athena must have stabbed someone with a utility knife. This must have been what Ponko witnessed as Athena's hug. But Prosecutor Blackquill didn't see the knife at the scene. This means that someone must have removed it from the lab before he arrived. Who could have taken the utility knife from the lab? No, Athena Sykes couldn't have, somebody else had to have. A third person was at the scene. If I trust in Athena, then I have to conclude there was a third person at the scene. But according to Ponko's testimony, Athena and her mother were the only two there. So then how did this third person manage to escape Ponko's detection? I know. This person must have fooled Ponko's facial recognition by covering their own face. The person hid their face. But wait a minute, Ponko has a heartbeat detection system too. Even if they covered their own face, Ponko would have still detected their presence. But she wouldn't have been able to tell who they were. Wait, that's it! The culprit could have covered their face and posed as which person to avoid detection. Meta Sykes. Yeah, the person posed as the victim. If the culprit posed as the victim, that would explain why Ponko thought only she and Athena were there. All they had to do was take advantage of Ponko's basic recognition features. The culprit used this in order to pose as the victim, her jacket. The culprit could have posed as the victim by wearing her jacket with the ID tag on it, but that still leaves the heartbeat detection system. How did the culprit get around that? It wouldn't have worked if Ponko could detect the real Dr. Sykes' heartbeat, too. So does that mean that the real Dr. Sykes was already dead by that time? If that's the case, then who did Athena stab? The real culprit. Athena stabbed the real culprit. That's it. The person Athena stabbed wasn't Dr. Sykes. It was the person who murdered her and then pretended to be her. The real culprit. Now that Mr. Wright has finally finished thinking, let us bring this to a swift end. Please give us your verdict, Your Honor, so that we can move on to hostage negotiations.
You are absolutely right, Prosecutor Edgeworth. I hereby...
Objection!
I didn't say I was finished. I was only pausing for a second, because I realized something so shocking I had to take a break to digest it. But now I know for a fact that Miss Sykes is innocent. But Ponko saw me. She witnessed the moment of the crime. Yes, Ponko did witness something. She saw the hug. In other words, the moment you used the utility knife. But the person you stabbed wasn't your mother.
What are you saying, Mr. Wright?
The answer is simple. The person Miss Sykes stabbed was a third person posing as Dr. Sykes.
What?
Do you really expect us to swallow that, Mr. Wright? According to the robot's statements, there was no third person there. Did you really think I wouldn't see through your ludicrous grab for time? After all we've been through, Mr. Edgeworth, I'm disappointed. Don't you know by now that this smile of mine means I have absolute confidence? Ha! You make that pose all the time, regardless of the facts. Ponko's strange malfunction. Mr. Terran, you look pale. Shall I help you to the sickbay? Mr. Terran? That's Apollo you're talking to. Oh, this hunk of junk here is mistaking Apollo for Clay. Maybe Apollo was possessed by Clay's ghost. That was another case of mistaken identity caused by a jacket ID tag. All because Klonko couldn't read Apollo's facial features due to that eye patch. Like Mr. Edgeworth said, a mask could nullify the robot's facial recognition. And then, all the person would have to do is wear a jacket with the victim's ID tag to pose as her. Of all the ridiculous theories, what good would a silly disguise like that do? Have you forgotten that the robot also has a heartbeat detection system? If there was a third person at the scene, the robot would have detected them. I'm sorry, Mr. Edgeworth, but that doesn't count for much, I'm afraid. Because, by that time, Dr. Sykes' heart had already stopped beating.
What? So, does that mean?
Yes, Your Honor. The person Miss Sykes stabbed, this third person who was posing as Dr. Sykes, is her mother's real killer.
But that's... impossible!
A mask? The person I stabbed was wearing a mask?
Order! Order in the court! Miss Sykes, did you say something?
A mask. Yes. I remember. Athena, what is it? I remember a man with a mask. How could he? What did he do to my mother? My head.
Ah! Miss Sykes, are you all right?
No! Oh. The Black Psych Lock. They're breaking. It's all coming back to me. Everything that happened the day my mother was murdered. They're gone. The Black Cyclops are finally gone. You didn't really stab your mother, did you? It's all right, Athena. Just tell us what you saw that day. I was drawing a picture. when I was done, I went to show it to my mom. I opened the door, and then... yeah. It's all right. I'm right here. You're safe, Athena. She was on the floor by the workbench, with the katana sticking out of her. There was a handkerchief over her face, but I knew it was her by her clothes. And there was a man there.
A man?
Quiet, Your Honor. Go on, Athena. He tried to attack me. In a panic, I grabbed the knife that was there and... he dodged at first, so I only got his clothes. But I tried again. And this time you got him, didn't you? I did. I remember it clearly now. The knife went into the back of his hand. Then he kicked me, and I passed out. The utility knife updated in the court record. Ah. When I came to, my mom wasn't moving. I had to do something. I had to fix her, I thought. So I asked Punko to move her to the operating table. Something's wrong with Mom, so I'm taking her apart to fix her. So that's why she said that. Your Honor, as you can see, the defendant has just given us critical new testimony. A man was there before Miss Sykes arrived. A man who covered the victim's face and put on the victim's jacket. This man is the real culprit.
Miss Sykes, do you have an idea who this man was?
No, I'm afraid I don't. A few moments ago, Miss Sykes mentioned a mask. Athena, can you tell us anything else about that? Yes, the mask. It was my mom's Japanese theater mask. I think it was the one hanging on the wall of the lab.
This mask hanging here on the wall.
It was kind of spooky, that mask. My mom used to tell me that a no mask even has the power to turn an ordinary human being into a phantom. A phantom.
It would seem that a new suspect has emerged. And that means that all suspicion against Miss Sykes has...
You see, this is precisely why I can't trust the court system. Athena Sykes is the murderer. I won't accept any other verdict. Miss Blackwell, this is not good. A new suspect? Where's the proof this person ever existed? Who says it wasn't all just a dream in the little princess's groggy little head? Ugh. She's right. We don't have any hard evidence of the masked man's existence. Thank you, Mr. Wright. I'll never be able to repay you for all you've done. But I'm fine now, because I can say with certainty that I didn't kill my mother. Lena, I'm so glad for you. More and more memories are coming back now. So I'd like to say one thing, if I could. Punko came to the robotics lab at about 2 p.m. to recharge. I went to the robotics lab at about 2 p.m. for my regular recharge. Just as I was about to charge up, Athena came in and hugged Mommy Metis. And then Mommy Metis fell down. After that, I was recharging, so I don't know anything. I see where you're going with this. If Mommy Metis was really the killer in disguise. Right. And he must have come to the robotics lab before 2 p.m. Do I have anything here in the evidence that can help me find this person who came to the lab before 2 p.m.? The 7-year-old video, right? This is Prosecutor Blackquill leaving the scene after the incident around 3 p.m. What I'm wondering is, does the video show anyone else passing by before then? I don't see anything in the investigation report. It looks like they didn't check. Just as I thought. So if we rewind the footage and go back to around 2 p.m., we should be able to see the true culprit leaving the scene.
Very, very well then. Let's take a look.
There. Please, stop it right there.
It's just like you said. There's a man leaving the scene of the crime.
Miss Sykes, do you remember this person? That's him. I'm sure of it. He's wearing my mother's jacket! I did, but what I really wanted to see was her jacket. That jacket on display, that was Dr. Sykes's. Yep. Can you see it? There's the slash I made with the utility knife that day. And I'm sure that knife is under that jacket somewhere.
So then, everything Miss Sykes said...
Exactly. It proves that Miss Sykes' memory was correct. Dr. Sykes' killer arrived at the robotics lab before 2 p.m. He killed her and hit her face with a handkerchief. Then he disguised himself with Dr. Sykes' jacket and mask that were there in the lab. The culprit probably knew beforehand that Ponko charged up at 2 p.m. every day. So he waited for Ponko to come to the lab for her regular recharge. By leaving Dr. Sykes' jacket on, the culprit tricked Ponko into thinking he was Dr. Sykes, thereby making it look like she was alive up to that point in time. All to disguise the real time of death. It's a nice theory, Mr. Wright, but I'm afraid that it's just not possible. What? Why not? The victim's jacket is clearly visible right there in the video. And that right there is precisely the problem. The ID tag on the jacket at the scene confirms beyond doubt that it belonged to the victim. If the person who left the lab truly was wearing the victim's jacket, then how could it possibly have wound up back at the crime scene? What's going on? That doesn't make sense. Edgeworth's right. The culprit was wearing the jacket. How did it get back to the lab? Hang on. So the three options we have here is the killer brought it back, the victim brought it back, or the defendant brought it back. The victim couldn't bring it back because the victim was dead. The defendant couldn't bring it back because Black Quill got her out of the scene immediately, and she never came back. So the only person who could have brought it back is the killer. Right? I'm gonna save just in case because I'm feeling I don't want to get a game over. We've avoided that so far in this series. All right. The killer brought it back. The killer used the jacket as a disguise to make his escape, but in order to conceal the fact, he had to get the jacket back to the crime scene. So the culprit simply returned to the robotics lab later and planted it there. Contradiction resolved. Except that it would have been impossible. The only people who came to the robotics lab after the killer were Prosecutor Black Quill and the people who reported the body, and they claimed that the jacket was there when they arrived. That one was so obvious I thought it was a trap. Yeah, I know. I know, that's kind of what I thought. So, when do you propose this mysterious man of yours had the chance to return the jacket?
A puzzling question indeed.
When did the culprit have the chance to bring the jacket back? At the time of the murder? No, when the body was found. Yeah. The only time the culprit could have returned the jacket was when the body was found. Mr. Wright, do you realize the implication of that argument? I do. Most people, when they come across a murder, focus their attention on the body. The culprit could have taken advantage of the split second to plant the jacket. In other words, the true culprit of this case, the man known as the Phantom, was one of the first people to discover the body.
I would never have thought of that! Order in the court! What is the meaning of this, Prosecutor Edgeworth?
The body was discovered and reported by a group of 3 people. They were there to collect the space probe's capsule in preparation for the Hat 1 launch. One of those people had a special bag to transport the capsule in. Oh, you mean the shock-resistant bag? Correct. I suppose that if the jacket was in that bag, it could have been returned to the scene of the crime without anyone noticing. I'll see to it that you get the reports on those 3 people. You will? We should also check the facial recognition database for that robot. If this person felt the need to hide his face with the Theta mask, it might mean that his facial data was once registered.
But Prosecutor Edgeworth, does this mean?
I have to admit, I believe Miss Sykes' memories to be credible. You win, right? Not that this was ever an official trial anyway.
Do my ears deceive me? Prosecutor Edgeworth, are you actually conceding?
Is it true? Boss, does this mean I can't believe it. It's over. I won. I proved that both Athena and Prosecutor Blackwell are innocent. Your Honor, I see no need to further prolong this trial. Hold on, Mr. Wright. Have you forgotten who's in charge of this trial?
That's right. I'm the one who's supposed to say, I see no need to further prolong.
Not you either, Your Honor. Now, silence. The little princess who was truly beloved by Metis and repaid that love with death. All these years hating Athena was the only thing that kept me going. But what do I do now? Can anybody tell me? How am I supposed to go on? Miss Blackwell. How unlike you, Aura. Metis was deeply passionate about her work, and she chose you as her partner. Isn't that... Shut up, Simon! You know exactly how I felt about her. Her respect as a co-worker wasn't all that I wanted.
Then what did you want from her?
Did you really just go there, Your Honor?
Aura, there is something I've wanted to say, if you will lend me an ear. I have in my possession a lead on who Metis' murderer is.
You do?
Right, don't know. You asked me about the identity of the Phantom of 7 years past.
That's right. The Phantom. The person Blackwell has been looking for, even from behind bars.
7 years ago, somebody hatched a plan to sabotage the Hat 1 rocket.
The spy.
But he was no ordinary spy. We knew naught about him, his background, appearance. We came to refer to him as the Phantom. At the time, I was working with the police to hunt him down. And then, one day, a miracle occurred and I obtained a lead on him.
Oh, how exciting! What was the lead?
A recording of the Phantom's voice. But the quality was too poor for proper voice analysis. Yet I had hope. Aura's co-worker was a scientist who could analyze human emotions, so I asked her to evaluate the recording using analytical psychology.
And that scientist was Dr. Sykes.
Yes. The spy's greatest fear is to have his true identity discovered. In addition to the Hat 1, Dr. Sykes' results in the recording was surely among his targets. But his search at the Space Center bore no fruit, so he must have started to panic.
He couldn't find them? But where could they have been?
Who is to say?
Wow, I bet he's never let that out of his sight all these years. How in the world did you smuggle them into prison?
Oh, I have my ways. What's more, my partner is especially talented at that sort of thing. I worked to lure the Phantom in by spreading rumors throughout the underworld. I was even granted permission to prosecute cases to attract the Phantom's attention. Just try to retrieve your identity, you bloody butcher, became my taunt.
And what about the results Dr. Sykes drew up for you? Was there any useful information?
Yeah, you can see for yourself. But take good care of it. It's all I have left of my mentor.
I will. I'd better hold on to this real tight. The Phantom Psych profile has been added to the court record. The subject's emotions rarely fluctuate and he doesn't experience feelings like normal people do. Oh. Weird. Psychological profile classified. Emotional output of this voice extremely weak compared to typical voices. Subject deemed to have unique psychological makeup with almost no emotional fluctuation. No emotional fluctuation, huh?
A spy who experiences no emotions. Not sadness, nor anger, and naturally no fear. He is the very definition of a phantom. A monster with no heart, don't you see? This creature is the rot that destroyed our lives and set what ails us all into motion. The Phantom, indeed. A fitting name for the one who has brought darkness to our world.
Well then. Seems a faint image of this man has started to take shape. Based on what we learned, I'd like all of you to conduct further investigation. This is not a formal trial, but I do want to follow protocol. If I may, I'd like to hand down my verdicts and bring these proceedings to an end.
Whatever. Do what you want.
You hear no objections from me.
Yes, please, Your Honor. It's over. It's finally over.
Very well. In that case, Prosecutor Blackquill, could you please take the stand? As a result of this trial, your innocence has been proven. The verdict handed down 7 years ago is hereby overturned. And now the defendant of the current trial, Miss Athena Sykes.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, thank you. Thank you for everything. Athena, you're more than welcome.
If everyone is ready, I will now give my verdict. You?
Apollo? Finally he shows up.
Apollo.
What is the meaning of this?
Congratulations, Mr. Wright and Prosecutor Edgeworth. You uncovered the truth from 7 years ago, and you saved Prosecutor Blackquill. However, I can't allow this trial to end just yet.
Why, Apollo? Why would you do this to us? Oh, to be continued. All right. As much as I hate to do this, I think we will postpone to next Saturday to finish the, I'm assuming the final, because this is trial day 1. I'm assuming there could be a lot left, but we'll see. Cross-examining Apollo is coming up next. So we will do that next time. All right. I will see you then.